Yeah. So, overall, I think, so far we've broken it down to globals and rotational heroes, the solo laners as well, very important. I mean, you already mentioned the Thrall, Tim, having it on that bot lane, using the conveyor belt to rotate up. We've seen it so many times, the amount of pressure it can pile on.
Yeah.
And the question is item control as well. That kind of camp clear speed can be a huge deal on this map.
One thing for me too is Chromie has had such a hard time on this battleground. We see her keep getting picked up, but it seems like teams are getting much better at understanding what the Protector can do in the late stages because it scales up dramatically. It can dive forwards, it can dive keeps, and we've seen Chromie's actually having a really hard time stacking their quest and being able to get to a point where they can fight in the late game.
Outside of the Chromie pick, I feel what we are also most likely going to see here is a higher priority on Garrosh. He usually is quite strong on Volskaya when it comes to controlling the point, and so we could end up with I expect that Malfurion is going to be banned out again, because I don't think there's a world in which Fnatic is allowing Dignitas to take Malfurion, and Fnatic on the other side, I'm not quite sure if they would prioritize him that much. Given that assumption, I would think that a Stukov composition with a Garrosh would be one of the options that we could see. I could see that more on the side of Fnatic if they get their hands on it, but we are pretty flexible in that setup. But I think the idea behind it is still going to be the same. And in the series, we haven't seen a lot of really focused Garrosh play just yet. I mean, we've seen on Dignitas' side on Infernal Shrines, but with very little impact and no follow-up, and I expect that follow-up to be there now.
And I think that's actually one thing to point out and emphasize here is that this series is the one that hasn't had as much priority compared to, for Garrosh compared to, say, other series from all of these other teams that have been playing here, where it's been contested heavily at the very top of draft. What do you think makes that?
I feel like it's a result of the phases that we went through in league play, where Garrosh was a heavy priority. I mean, Zealous brought it in, obviously, after the Western Clash and showed how strong it can be. Everyone started playing Garrosh. Diablo was strength as well. But then we got to a point where teams were starting to understand how to handle Garrosh and went into poke type of compositions, Hanzo, Chromie, break it down. So EU teams are actually familiar with the character, and they don't mind if it gets picked up early, actually adapting towards it and punishing it.
I actually think that Garrosh has fallen a little bit in a lot of the priorities because team are now leaning heavily towards an early Johanna, depending on the draft. That hero has surprised me more than the Garrosh priority, I have to say. And even before that, we have seen a lot of Muradin, for example, where Garrosh had the highest pick rates in the tournament was actually in the group stage, and a lot of that counted from teams that didn't make it into the playoffs to go for a Garrosh pick very, very early in the draft.
So, Fnatic banning out Tracer as their first ban here. Don't want to give Dignitas that, as it can be very scary, especially on this map. Tracer becoming hyper-mobile, being able to dive through the conveyor belts a lot of times, dive onto the point and do a lot of burst damage and then leave can be extremely effective.
You have so much room with Tracer to wiggle around. That's the big issue, is that there's so much space for her to be able to have a strength that, yes, she is very annoying to deal with.
But that also opens up a lot of possible bans in first picks for Fnatic now, because now you have to make a decision. Is Maiev worth banning first here? Do we still go for a ban on Malfurion? Do you expect Fnatic to take it? And we can't forget about the priority that Garrosh has seen here as well. I would think Maiev is what they're probably going to ban out, and indeed they do. So they're going to take that away. Mene has shown, for Fnatic in general, a huge affinity to playing the hero, and therefore Fnatic now has their choice. And if they don't pick Malfurion here, Dignitas is definitely going to do it.
And I'm thinking about it. Do they want to move into that Malfurion? Do they want to grab Garrosh? Both great for control, but there's always an element of trying to take away a hero from your opponent.
There's also other heroes like Genji, Hanzo, those high priority assassins who have jumped in. Hanzo especially can have issues on certain areas of this map. Genji, on the other hand, we've seen him put some great pressure onto backlines on this map using the conveyor belts and the significant amount of walls here.
I think one of the important aspects as well between these two teams is historically both teams have had a phenomenal warrior player that's been so instrumental in a lot of their victories and successes throughout their history. So you've got your Breeze, very traditional as a tank player. You've got your JPL on the other side, very traditional as a tank player. So maybe that's why Garrosh doesn't quite come to the forefront for these two teams, because they're so comfortable with so many other warriors.
Could be a reason why. You'll never know from JPL. I consider him a silent killer. You know, he comes in, he performs, dominates, and he's out. And speaking of silent killing, we got Johanna here and Blaze picked up for Dignitas.
Which highlights the priority again. Johanna taken over Garrosh. And while we're talking about Garrosh, in league play, for example, Dignitas after the Western Clash started to heavily pick him up. 7-0 actually after the Western Clash. That was pretty impressive from them. But I like what happened here with the early picks because Fnatic had to take Malfurion. As we said before, Malf is atop every other support. But Fnatic actually, from their playstyle, loves to play other supports. That's what they oftentimes do with Smexy. So for them, it was an actual thought process. We know Dignitas excels with Malfurion. We know what Malfurion offers, but do we still give him up? And in the end, it took them a long time. They went through the entire timer, but they decided to pick him. But now the layer defense here already for Dignitas with that Blaze, that Johanna, and the early priorities on heroes that we were discussing even before the draft started, because they know that if they don't take the two of them now, there's a high chance that one of them is either going to be banned or grabbed away by the opponent.
That's some great CC and potentially some great damage output coming in here from Fnatic. In terms of fighting onto an area, dropping those blizzards, dropping those chain lightnings there, and of course Malfurion Roots opens you up for so many fights. And then, of course, you actually have some pretty decent sustain. Thrall with great self-sustain. Jaina can build into different points of self-sustain. And Malfurion,
that's right,
healing over time.
It's his most traditional, it's his most common build now for Thrall, which is that massive sustain build.
I would actually laugh. Think about what we saw with Genji a lot when when a very similar early pick phase or rotation came in for them. What did teams ban out against them? What did Pentempest ban out? They banned out Hammer. Now, after we've seen the group stage a lot of Hammer play, we have actually seen a couple of Dignitas players to spam Hammer in the Hero League. Now, I don't really expect it to come out, but it would actually be absolutely hilarious to me if now Hammer is picked up on the side of Dignitas with the same rotation that Genji always tried to get when they were at least threatening that Hammer play. So if that's the game where it comes out, that would be ridiculous.
Not to build too much into it, but they had the protection to move into Hammer if they really wanted to.
It's a monstrous front line, and they still have basically every support open. They can absolutely go for whatever they want here if they did want to go for the Hammer.
I still would say that it's highly unlikely. It just would be funny. But in terms of the ban for Fnatic now, I mean, you have a ton of options with what we are seeing here. Now, you can, of course, try and choke out a few of the supports. We've seen earlier in game number 1, Fnatic heading into a ban on Stukov later on, simply because on the space of the objective, Infernal Shrines in first game, and now here the control point, you could ban that out. But Chromie is being banned after the last game, and you talked about it, Tim.
The threat, Chromie stacking. It hasn't been successful in the tournament yet, but Dignitas has a pretty good Chromie player. Poik is willing to land those sandblasts if he has the opportunity. I was wondering about a Stukov ban, just because we talked about Fnatic and the poke that comes out from them and how effective it can be, and you want to try and take away those sustained supports, but Fnatic not going with that route. And to be fair, Dignitas has mentioned in the past they don't really like running Stukov, or Zelia in particular has said that, as he just doesn't feel like you have the tools to make plays with it.
It's funny because the majority of Chromie play that we've seen this tournament, if you're not going Temporal Loop, has ended up with level 20 on Pocket Sand or Pocket of Time. That's the one. I call it Pocket Sand because it's like that.
Yeah.
Do you remember back in the day? But I think Underhole Anomaly on this map's fantastic.
Underhole Anomaly is amazing on Chromie, and I will stand by that for the rest of my life, especially when you go for Time Trap build. You're slowing down the fight, and you can get slowed movement speed on your opponents. It's so strong.
I agree on the Underhole Anomaly, but all the Time Trap build, no, go away.
Time Trap build's hog on this bit.
It was what brought Chromie onto this map. It's ADRD's build that he used at the Western Clash.
Yeah.
So I'd like to talk actually about a hero that you guys mentioned a little bit earlier. The fact is that Junkrat could potentially be okay here for Dignitas, depending on what kind of frontline Fnatic come in here. The whole point of really running a Johanna comp is if you can run superior poke behind it, because she will be that stalwart frontline, unless anyone's diving past, which currently Fnatic are going to have a little bit of trouble with, then you're going to be pretty fine. So Junkrat is one of those heroes who can stand behind, siege in, get a huge amount of poke, and set up for those Genji resets. So if there was a time it could be picked, this one would be okay.
I feel like we're missing something with Junkrat, because every time I think that Junkrat would be okay here, we just haven't seen him picked up.
I mean, to be honest, the thing is they have so much flexibility here because they've already shown that Quack can play Thrall as well, and they're willing to put him on. So it's not necessarily Benny that's on Thrall. They could still go into another offlaner and then go for the main tank here. So we could see that range damage, but especially if you go for a triple melee line, you have a lot of survivability for your mage, but they're going into that global, and we highlighted that as Volskaya was chosen, that Dehaka and Forster would both be options.
I mean, what you were saying about the concept of a Junkrat on this map, like with Stay a While and Listen, Riptire actually, in theory, is phenomenal.
It could be pretty monstrous, but I'm now concerned. The biggest issue I had was the potential for diving past the Johanna.
Yeah.
And Breeze has just picked up Diablo. They've got Fly. Thrall was always the one who could get closest, and right now, Fnatic's burst follow-up to a Diablo engage, they might go for the same build, but once again, it is a little bit more open than some other maps, so we might just end up seeing the standard flame.
What about a Tychus here?
Solo tank Diablo, it would force him out, and there's no one to juggle with.
You get Odin to force the issue around the middle.
The Grand Sustain due to the extra armor. I can see the appeal.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what I would go with in this draft, and I feel like Tychus would be pretty solid. We're going to go into Li Ming, though.
Full resets on towards Stay a While and Listen. What do you think?
It has the potential to work. Once again, the whole joy of a full reset comp is it only really takes one.
Yep.
I think Falstad or Jaina have to miss position here for Fnatic to be able to get those resets going. We've been seeing it in the tournament before. Li Ming is always trying to siege down Jaina. If you land one orb, you're choking down to half her health. It's doable. It's a pretty solid pick here. It's just a matter of trying to find that initiation and find that poke opportunity.
I can't vote against Breeze on Diablo.
Well, we're going to be doing the predictions now, so let's start things off.
I am joining Calder on that. I quite like Dignitas' draft, but Breeze is just too scary for me. So I am going with Fnatic for this one.
Okay.
I see Breeze on Diablo and I'm terrified. I agree with that solo tank problem though, and once the resets come in for Dignitas, it's going to be hunting season on Falstad and Jaina. But I believe that Breeze is going to create that space. So it's a close series though. I'm happy about that. Didn't quite expect that. So.
Yeah, for me, I think there's enough protection for both Genji and Li Ming to find the opportunity to get a pick and get the resets and start to really run over the composition of Fnatic. And Falstad's one of those heroes that I just hate watching play into a Genji. I'm actually going to go with Dignitas here.
This sounds very familiar to the last series, or the last game even, I should say, because I'm going to go with Dignitas as well. I think that the potential for the resets as the coordination could work out definitely. Let's check in with Twitch chat as well, as you can continue voting with the hashtags. And also, don't forget to keep cheering for your favorite teams here at the Mid-Season Brawl.
Twitch chat is very loyal today.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised.
Not too much flippy-floppy today.
The Dolphins.
Yes. All right, so let's head over to the commentary team as well and see what they think going into game number 3. Your thoughts, guys?
Can I call bias on our English host?
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
I will say I actually fall draft-wise, at least here on the side of Fnatic. But again, Dignitas, high-risk composition last game, still had the execution, so it's hard to vote against Dig.
All right, well, have fun, guys.
Ooh, I can't decide what I like more just as a composition, like what's going to be more fun to watch, because I totally agree with Caldor. Breeze's Diablo has been insane, at least in game 1. We'll see if he can pull it off again here. But then again, double reset. Good, do the honors.
It's going to start here on the blue side, where we're going to have Smexy on Malfurion, Mene on his Jaina. Thrall will be played by Bad Benny, Breeze on Diablo, and Quacknix on Falstad. Give it up for Fnatic!
Their opponents looking for a run after winning the last game. Wubby playing Blaze, JPL on Johanna, Zaelia playing Deckard, Kane, Snitch on Genji, and point blank Li Ming. Let's hear it for Team Dignitas.
Collapse over the mid here. When it comes to early game kill potential, Dignitas, I want to say, has greater kill potential, but if they get one, you can expect a second one to happen right behind that. But the Thrall, Jaina lockdown, along with Diablo and Malfurion, some of the best early game kill potential. And Mene is no kind of, you guy. Whoa, my goodness. Quacknix out there for almost a second too far. And we quickly see why Falstad is kind of falling out of the meta, Gilly.
Yeah, and maybe why Trixler said, I hate seeing him pour Falstad into a Genji, because that was just about 3/4 of the health bar with a Swift Strike. But that's what Team Dignitas is looking at to set up. Again, we see the Sapphire from Deckard Cain so that he can get a better slow a setup initially, but then we can see potentially the Jet Propulsion follow-up, Johanna going in too, and then the Swift Strike and Li Ming getting resets behind it. It's going to come in especially handy when we look at the control point. And having Power Hungry for Li Ming is going to try to help ensure that she doesn't run out of her ability to keep poke around those long control point fights.
And even though we don't look at level 1 skirmishes, especially those that don't net kills as a major advantage in one half or the other, look at what that one skirmish got Dignitas. They are miles ahead on turret number 1 in the battleground, and I would argue that's purely because of the rotation of somebody having to go to the top half of the map to be able to deal with that. We'll see if Dignitas maybe wants to capitalize, use the double reset composition for an invade, and if not, expect them to get at least a little bit of early game pressure onto these front walls, as you see here through mid. Dignitas, again, taking anything and everything that Fnatic will give them.
That was a great zoning set up by Azalea on the Deckard, forced down the members of Fnatic in mid so that they could get the extra poke done to the tower. They already took out one tower, and they're just setting themselves up better to have a little bit more of the experience advantage, having 4 faster than Fnatic, but especially if they can get that first protector. They've already now taken down a tower here in the mid, so that lets them give the rotation to top faster and maybe even be able to put some damage on the top 4 as a result.
You've got to be concerned for Fnatic on how this laning phase is unfolding, mainly because when we look at Diablo, Malfurion, Jaina, and Falstad, that wave clear capabilities in the 4-man, in terms of the wave clear dominance, should be going in favor of Fnatic, but just based on the, again, that early game trade and sending the Falstad back, we have never seen a position due to the zoning of Dignitas to really kind of recollect themselves in a full 4-man. It's pretty impressive. It's not going to get, again, too much, only really a turret into these early game, but when a team struggles to be able to adjust, especially when they have a compositional advantage within a 1-4, it usually kind of translates to other difficulties within that. So a bit concerning here for Fnatic, but they have an opportunity to turn it around here as we're 15 seconds out from control point A.
Well, what's cool from that is that Team Dignitas has not been afraid to rotate down and help out Blaze and push that lane harder, and it keeps them away from possibly falling victim to that kill potential of the Diablo into Malfurion and all of the damage that comes behind that with the Jaina. But now this might be a problem. As you see the root, the second root, and the Blizzard too, this is Wubby. He has Pyromania, and he'll use it to get the armor to make sure that he can live through the slows and the damage from that. So Wubby lives, but does have to burn that long cooldown. He'll be looking to bring it back as fast as possible around this point.
Because of that rotation, it was the gank on the bottom half. Not only is it one of the easiest lanes to try and get an escape there, Iron Skin already going to be dropped, but Dignitas has major advantage. Actually, Jet Propulsion's a bit of a whip. Jaina throws down the combo, and Fnatic get first blood there on Wubby.
Oh, great dodge from that Jet Propulsion. Once you use that, you are in, especially if you've just used Pyromania. You don't have the armor from that either, and there's nothing really to bail out Wubby. This gives the control point over to Fnatic for the time being, but Dignitas had the first channel, and they brought it to almost 50%, which means they have a little bit of time before they can need to get back onto this control point and challenge it.
There was a big advantage when it came to those rotations, again, based on the timing of the camp and because that failed gank on the bottom half. Dig was winning on all fronts, but that last initiation and that pickoff has really set things back to Dead Avian. If anything, Fnatic with a major upper hand purely because they have the Falstad Global to deal with the pressure in that top lane as we see many and friends go up there to deal with that. Meanwhile, skirmish still unfolding here. Root's gonna land onto Breeze, forcing out that Nature's Cure, but it's a full 5 versus 5 here over control point A. 72% for Fnatic. One win over the skirmish, and it's likely they'll have themselves a protector.
The top lane is slightly in favor of Team Dignitas, but this control point is far more valuable. Blizzard down, trying to take out that turret in favor of Team Dignitas. Diving forward on Breeze while he has the heal reduction from Emerald, but not enough to get a reset, not enough to force back Fnatic. All it does is force a tap from Breeze as he moves back forward.
But that last skirmish was without Blizzard. Blizzard was used onto the turret. Dignitas needed to be more aggressive in that window of opportunity. Now expect Mene to get the follow-up after the initiation from Breeze. 87% and counting upward. Dignitas trying to zone up. Breeze is going to be able to make it up. A lot of damage going in, and actually Shadow Charge on the minion to get out of here. Overtime is picked up. Fnatic trying to not give this up for free here. They're going to get zoned out, though, with all that damage poked out from Poik. The first protector of this game goes to Dig.
Love the positioning of having Wubby on one side, slowing down and putting a lot of damage with his Flame Stream, while you saw Deckard and Johanna on the other side too. The zoning allowed for the free poke with safety from the back line of Team Dignitas, and that's enough to afford a protector. And we're seeing something different from what we usually see in rotations, at least in the North American region. Generally, that would be mid-turrets, mid-towers, and then go up toward the top. But they're setting up for way later, possibly, as they're looking at this bottom fort.
I feel like this has to do with a little bit of either late game win conditions looking into the future for Dignitas, or the lack of global advantage in some of the decision making that we expect Fnatic to have over the second point. What I think you're going to see Dignitas do now that they've taken that bottom 4 down, not only because Fnatic made the predictable rotation, but think about the offlane, Falstad. Remember the biggest fear Trick had is Genji's gank potential onto that. As the root lands onto Mene, actually a lot of damage in the machine gun, and Dignitas get another kill, fighting back here. 10 advantage and likely another 4. This game is getting out of control.
Dignitas are breaking this game wide open in an instant. The Protector falls, but so too will this fort. You were saying?
I was going to highlight that Genji is an amazing ganker onto an offlane. We oftentimes seen that people try and prioritize killing into the offlane. Falstad is going to not have a chance at holding his own in that section whenever control point B happens. And maybe, you know, with the momentum that Dignitas had, they expected to see that offlane. Another thing you'd be looking at as well, what if Falstad isn't the person in the offlane? Well, who are you going to send? Thrall? Also very susceptible to that kill potential. So probably some of the thought process there for Dignitas, but either way, I'm sure after control point B and more importantly C, we're gonna see the thought process here. But for now, a full level lead, and Dignitas really kind of, outside of that one skirmish, really controlling a lot here in game 3.
Yeah, having that mid and bottom lane so far in their favor and heroic abilities way ahead of Fnatic allow them to get both of the turrets, which sets them up to fight over whatever they want next at the utmost advantage. It may be here at the support camp. Fnatic, though, they need this fight. They need something to get back into the game, so they're trying to see if they can bait out Team Dignitas to come in, come around, somebody to get out of the way.
Fnatic has amazing territorial spells. If I'm Dignitas, I walk away from this fight all day, but they're going to move up. They're going to take it. Iron Skin is already there. Lightning Breath is going to get thrown down. Camp picked up there for Fnatic. Bunker drop. X-Strike goes down. No reset yet. There's going to be the first reset, but stay a while and listen. Hold back the advance of Fnatic. Diablo will come back there, losing his souls. Wubby gonna get jet propulsion onto Mene, forcing out that gust. Now Stitch out too far. The root catches him. The deflect down in 1-for-1. There is the Twilight Dream drop.
Twilight Dream drop, and that forces JPL back for a second. Smexy dodges the root, but then gets hit by... He is dodging everything as Benny and the rest of Fnatic look to re-engage the root. It's JPL low. JPL falls.
Huge play there by Mene to break fog and be able to dodge down below and then know whenever Breeze gets into position, he didn't need to get enough damage out. He didn't have to risk any of the positioning. If I can just get a slow, I can set my team up for another skirmish, and more importantly, that kill to catch up and experience. A root lands onto Wubby. He jet propulsions in.
Has to use the bunker. Can he get out of here, though? A lot of pressure being put onto Breeze from the backline with Poik. Wubby still falling low. Pyro beating on Poik. And Snitch bring down Falstad.
Baited and outsmarted. Wubby with a huge play there in the jet propulsion in. I'm not going to lie. I think at first it was like a, Wubby, I don't know if you know where your team is, but a great job at the end. And again, highlighting some of the crutches there of having a Falstad into Genji. It's very easy to kind of get just one shot as it happens again. But Dignitas will have a small advantage when looking at the 13 talents here towards control point B, but by no means is it out of control. And this is where I think we're going to see the decision-making from Dignitas. Notice how Genji is transferring to the bottom half of the battleground instead of going up to the point. We'll see if he focuses more onto the turret or if he instead commits to that skirmish. But I think we're going to see, again, why that rotation was so unique there from Dig.
And the choice there was to put Thrall in that bottom lane. If they're going to get a turret, Fnatic know that the minute they get 13, they're going to need to come into this with Dignitas having the positional advantage around this control point, because they're going to start that as soon as possible. Try to get what they can out of that 13. That means that Fnatic, they need everything in their arsenal possible to make sure that they can get onto this point. Johanna's still in the bottom. Blaze is up top, but of course has jet propulsion. He can sit here as long as he needs and then propulsion out, hopefully. He's gonna have to bunker from that.
Flip over, back into the bunker is going to be Wubby, but he's going to be met with the root when he gets out. Stay a while and listen, but Diablo doesn't care there. Barrel roll in, Wubby with a jet propulsion, but he gets picked once more. Fnatic constantly picking on Wubby.
And that's the second time in this series Team Dignitas have relied on putting Wubby onto an objective and him being punished by Fnatic. This is something that Team Dignitas needs to be aware of, because the lead that Dignitas amassed in this game is slipping away from them if they keep allowing Fnatic to make these kind of comeback plays.
There is enough time, though, for Dignitas to get Wubby back online, reinitiate. Bunker is not a long enough cooldown for them to kind of lose that. Granted, not the same story. A Blessed Shield actually dodged there And a bit out of range. Desperation kind of on the breath of Dignitas when looking at some of the motions and transitions that they have had. But they will be down Blessed Shield, 25 seconds out from the Stay a While and Listen, but Bunker will be here, and we have ourselves a fight on the top half. Lightning Breath will come back online. Falstead still yet to join in. And look at that Snitch trying to capitalize.
It's going to fly in, so now it's a 5v5 fight. Benny low. Benny separated from the team, but the Gust is going to get some time. Ring of Frost goes out. A Bunker used from that too. Team Dignitas take control of the point. We're sitting at 88% for Fnatic. They've used a lot of heroic abilities here, but they still have Twilight Dream, they still have Lightning Breath.
Notice how Fnatic has Poik completely split. Poik is nowhere into this skirmish whatsoever, and if he shows, that is going to be Breeze, an easy shadow charge against the wall. Zalia kind of stuck into the corner here. Dignitas is getting out-rotated and manipulated here, but they go in, try to get the damage onto Breeze for now. Jet Propulsion already thrown down. Quacknix and friends waiting it out. Poik able to join back in after that slow, but the Lightning Breath ripping Dignitas apart. Zalia and friends trying to use this conveyor belt to get out of here. But many stay a while and listen.
Off of the point, off of the conveyor belt. They take out Jaina. Now Quacknix is low, but he stays alive. Can Fnatic do this? They dive back in, trying to take out Li Ming. They get the Li Ming kill. Fnatic fires back.
But they get back into the bunker. Fnatic is staying ahead when it comes to health, but if they give a reset over to Snitch, overtime going to be clocked over. Fnatic, Dignitas pulling away here. Head and experience, but Fnatic now get themselves their first protector.
Man, I did not think there was any way Dignitas made it out of that corner, but the call out as one to dive back in. They had to get out of that spot. They only lost Poik, but unfortunately also lost the protector because of the damage that Smexy and the rest of Fnatic did with that Twilight Dream. Very well done by Fnatic to get this protector. They needed this. They were behind structurally. This would have done a lot more damage to Fnatic's base, but now Fnatic can get back into this game.
They're going to rotate around, just doing as best they can to catch up when it comes to experience and the control over the battleground. I will say that I really like the priority of the transition, not putting too much information or at least time spent over to mid. And that is because we know the next point is going to spawn on the bottom half, and typically that is a win condition, especially for Dignitas with how much damage they've already done there after Protector #1. So this puts them in a very, very fine position to recover. Hold up though, Wubby actually already having to drop that bunker here. Dignitas maybe in a bad spot, but they're going to try and turn. Many ends up using the ring, but everybody in the bunker, no damage out from Fnatic.
It was such an incredible bunker to ensure that all of Dignitas could live through that. Thought maybe we would see a stay a while if Dignitas wanted to turn, but not being able to get the protector down enough to feel confident in doing that. And then move back forward now. That route ensures that JPL can't get forward, can't get a condemn on Quacknix out of that protector. We've seen a lot of cool kills on people out of protectors, like JPL, I believe, was the person who was able to hook someone out.
Keep in mind with his invade, actually, the Gus putting all of Dignitas into a corner, but they land the Jet Propulsion on the Specs. He has the Ice Block, he has Twilight Dream, but he won't be able to get it off in time. The bunker dropped down, and Dignitas get an easy first 2 kills. Oh my, Snitch looking for another reset, but just barely unable to get the damage out after that deflect.
Yeah, a strike at the heart. And the final cut almost took out Quacknix, but he barely lived. I thought maybe they could get more from the stay a while. You could see Zalia just posturing, waiting for it when everyone hopped out from the bunker, but it was only on Breeze, and now that's a long-ish cooldown that Dignitas doesn't have. But they're doing it. They're finding resets versus Fnatic.
I think that was a really great point you brought up when looking at the stay a while and listen and that choke. When we look at what Fnatic had after that skirmish attempt on bottom, they actually used 2 of those territorial spells. They only had Twilight Dream and Lightning Breath available during that skirmish along with Gust. Gust was used for the initiation. Twilight Dream was focused down before it could ever make it happen. So Dignitas taking that risky fight into that tight corridor, it's very different than the first fight over that biotic emitter that I was talking about earlier, that if I was Dig, I'd walk out of that. Very much a different case on that bottom half. And part of the reason Dignitas get an easy 2 kills.
Yeah, and nobody has been able to touch Zalia with the stay a while and listen. 1 Ring of Frost hit him, but because of Fortitude of the Faithful, he's with his teammates. He has the armor from that, and he took some damage, but he was so fine, and the rest of the dive couldn't happen. And he's been able to avoid any sort of Gust initiation too, even when it hits the rest of Team Dignitas. Zalia is playing this Decker Cane so well, and it is a huge reason why Team Dignitas have been able to find the success that they have in this game.
Normally you'd be looking at it and go, well, how can we get on top of Zalia? How can we make that, a different problem? Other than a major flight gust, it's going to be very difficult.
Because there's bunker too.
And the other answer is maybe flank around and collapse. We know control point C is going to happen on the bottom half, and there's no real major reason on a map like Volskaya Foundry to, kind of cycle around, defend your fort in the long run and siege. It very much approach is you're going to fight on this point. And let's be real, it's not very easy to get a flank when it's very predictable where your opponents are going to be. Dignitas, though, make a swift rotation to the bottom half here with a vision of some of the members of Fnatic on the top half, going to pick up easy experience, looking for that race to 20 before control point C spawns. If I'm Fnatic, I force this fight. I flight Gus right now. Something.
No flight. Breeze is watching someone. Can he get his Diablo hands on anyone? Excellent Iron Skin. Well done by JPL. No engagement for Fnatic. No flight Gus used, but still a level, a little bit less until Dignitas has 20. Fnatic are nearly out of options until they can get the same.
See how much Dignitas puts into that race to 20, as Genji did not make the rotation to deal with the camp on the top half. That being said, top camp on Volskaya Foundry, not the most impactful mercenary split pusher we've seen in Heroes of the Storm. How much percentage does Dig lose with this decision making to try and wait out the 20? And another thing to keep in mind, if Dignitas do pick up the 20, how much can Fnatic make happen down a level with the Protector themselves? This is going to be a lot of experience here, about a little bit past the 19 mark. Once the 4 ends up going down, Blaze is now showing interest towards top. 56% and counting.
Someone needs to get into position, but it looks like Dignitas are more interested in potentially fighting as soon as they get that 20. Blaze goes to mid. We're sitting at 59%. Fnatic stepped off of the point. Everyone's showing up, hoping that they could get the fight. And now with 20 here, Fnatic have to give this up.
Wubby's making the rotation down. He's going to be able to scout out Benny. Fnatic's going to capitalize on this. Can he get the bunker in time to Gus? They're along with the Twilight Dream, and Wubby is down. I mean, I'm going to say it. That very predictable rotation, and Fnatic completely capitalized on it. They are picking on Wubby left and right, and that is so the opposite. Look at that Shadow Charge on the minion. Going to be able to flip over Poik. 5 versus 4, they're going to force.
But with the 20, they're going to use the Earthquake. Poik taking so much damage from that Lightning Breath, and nobody can get on. JPL separated from the Rust. He has Indestructible, though, and stay a while and listen. Going to cure him out of that. Diablo goes down, but so does Deckard Cain. The resets are not happening in favor of Team Dignitas as Fnatic win the 5v4 without 20, yes, but with a man advantage, and that is what gives them 20.
Fnatic smell fear on Wubby. They absolutely do from beginning to end. We've talked about how he is very much one of the highest, praised offlaners that exist, not only within Europe, but actually the entire world. And how often it is to be able to catch him out there onto the Blaze. It just feels like he is neglecting, the kind of confidence of Fnatic to be like, well, if you're going to isolate in these type of situations, and it's not like that was in the halfway mark, Fnatic really forcing that pick in that rotation. It very much was Wubby kind of walking into all of Fnatic, thinking they have the upper hand for a moment, maybe not expecting the dream, but either way, they have a lot of tough situations to deal with now. 20 is here for Fnatic, and they've got the Protector. They're looking for a keep and possibly game.
What should have been Team Dignitas doing this to Fnatic now is Dignitas trying to defend their lives. So an extra it's going to start.
Breeze going out way too far there. He has no souls in the last initiation. They got the reset onto him at the very end, and that allows for Dignitas to hold off. Gilly, this is very wishy-washy for Europe versus Europe here, and some of the execution on how this is unfolding. But with that initiation, Dignitas is now found themselves back in control of this game purely based on a lot of the pressure they were able to get on the map. The only thing that they have to concern about is the fact that we got catapult pressure here for Fnatic. We'll see if Dignitas can capitalize on that lack of Diablo for 30 more seconds.
Dignitas have forced the Protector all the way back because who's inside of this Protector? A very squishy Falstad and Jaina. Not having the frontline protection, which was talked about at length from the analyst panel, of that Diablo having no souls there, trying to wait it out. This Protector can do a lot of damage, but Team Dignitas are the ones still aggressing, still reaching, but this is Xaylia.
Forcing a very early bunker, maybe necessary in that type of situation, but I'm going to bring it back to the term wishy-washy, Gilly. Not a situation in a 5 versus 4 where you would expect Xaylia to be sitting out, able to get caught by a root, and again, drawing out a cooldown. Bunker is one of the shorter ones, but it feels like the pressure here is very much weighing on the shoulders of both these teams.
Really cool to see the adjustment of respect to elderly, Deckard Cain, having the blinds and silences after stay a while and listen. See how that pays off? Not having the constant healing of the bottomless flasks. Oh, and Genji and Li Ming, they are vulnerable, but relying on the bunker and the strong front line of Johanna and Blaze to try to keep the rest of them safe. So they can have the shutdown of the composition of Fnatic. 8 kills versus 8 kills on either side. This has been a very close game, but not the cleanest that we would expect. But that just goes to show you the pressure of this situation. This is an elimination match, 1-1 in the games.
The territorial spell skilly. This is very, very risky.
They lost this fight once, and Blessed Shield's already gone.
Wind Tunnel is going to have a heyday here. Dignitas needs to be very careful. Breeze is going to go in. There goes the Wind Tunnel against the wall.
It's stopped. It's going to be back in a few. They still get the camp. They're still hanging on, and Dignitas have taken out Diablo. They've taken down both.
With the ring! Mene with that ring afterwards getting so much damage. Stay a while and listen. Keep Saley alive. X-Strike goes down, and Dignitas bait out that Wind Tunnel, get the bunker, and immediately one-shot Breeze, and they're able to turn that. And now Benny trying to retreat here. It looks like Dignitas, in fact, shows mercy, but I can't help but feel like their core is not going to see that same mercy.
Nope, not at all. No Gust, no Falstad, and only Thrall and Malfurion left as Team Dignitas in one fell swoop look to bring this series up 2-1. Wubby diving in, Smexy, the next under fire. Ice blocks for the moment. Out of that will fall. Team Dignitas are willing to retake the same fight, but this time are victorious on the support camp, and more importantly to them, are victorious in Game 3 of this series.
Very well done by Team Dignitas there, understanding exactly the approach that Fnatic was going to have over that tight fight. Again, over the biotic emitter, making sure that when they get hit by the gust, it's actually the opposite of what we typically show. When I was talking about the Zeratul and some of the series we've had here at MSB, you go, we need to stay split. But it's one of those cases where it's, if you have a solid answer, you very much want to be together so you can collapse onto that bunker. With that being said, I felt like Wubby was picked on so much that I was unsure whether or not we were going to see that bunker be able to clutch it out. But in the end, Dignitas remains at the top here of EU, now 1 game away from sending home what I would say is a crowd favorite here of Fnatic.
Dire straits for Team Fnatic, as they are likely the crowd favorite, though there are a lot of Dignitas chants in the crowd. But either way, don't forget that the winner of this series, and it's been a tough series, will have to play another one versus Tempo Storm in our final series of HGC play for today. So it's a close one. I expect it to remain close as we go into the next game.
But first, we got to throw it over to a quick commercial break, ladies and gentlemen, before we come back and conclude the rest here of Europe versus Europe at the Mid-Season Brawl.